Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. Today, we have a very special Beat MobileCoin with Faisal Saeed Al Mutar and Andreas Juergens. We'll have Josh Goldbard on today to moderate a discussion about Ukraine and helping the situation on the ground. We have a special airdrop today as well. We'll be following up with the ability to donate directly to these organizations that we're talking to today. I'm your host, Colin Lowenberg, and I'd love it if everybody is prepared for today's airdrop. We'll be giving out MobileCoin directly to your Signal wallet. So if you open up Signal, go to your settings, go to payments and activate payments. Later in this conversation, we're going to give you some MobileCoin that you can actually then donate to these organizations. I'm going to introduce and hand over to the moderator of our discussion, our CEO and founder of MobileCoin, Joshua Goldbard. Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Colin, thank you so much for having me on.
Josh, I'm pretty excited to have on some cool speakers today. Maybe you can do a quick intro. I think one of our speakers is actually in the hospital right now delivering a baby. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So Andreas is supposed to be joining us. He just called us about a minute ago and said, hey, I know we have this call right now, but my wife is actually saying that she's about to deliver a baby. And so we're going to see if he calls in a minute. I think there are things sometimes that are more important in life than phone calls, but we're going to do a call now with myself and Faisal Saeed Al Mutar. Faisal is a wonderful friend of mine, and he's also the person who runs Ideas Beyond Borders. Ideas Beyond Borders delivers critical thinking material to the Arabic world. What they do is they translate Wikipedia. They've done over 40,000 articles at this point, maybe more now. And Faisal has been working on this for a very long time. Faisal, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Ideas Beyond Borders.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. As you mentioned, the larger mission of the organization is making the accessible with a major focus on critical thinking and ideas that are mostly censored and not available in the Middle East region. We expanded last year to include more languages than Arabic. We now do Arabic, Kurdish, Farsi, and Pashtun in Afghanistan. And we try to make it enjoyable to know about the world and know that what authoritarians are trying to censor you from is actually really exciting sometimes. So that's what we do, and we also try to help other organizations expand and build their capacities. So on that way, they can go on their own and rely less on outside interference.
So recently, MobileCoin started working with Students for Freedom and Andreas's organization. And I'm just curious how you met Andreas, if you can talk a little bit about that, and then we can talk a little bit about what Ukrainian Students for Freedom does.
Sure. So I know Andreas as a part of a much larger organization called Atlas Network. And Atlas Network is an organization that connects all of the organizations around the world. They work pretty much everywhere from Zimbabwe to Malaysia to Nigeria to the Middle East to North America, in which they connect organizations and individuals who care about the ideals of freedom. So in the last conference, which was kind of an invite only, partners only events, the Students for Freedom was actually awarded, got an award from Atlas Network for their work in helping students in Belarus. And what I kind of loved about their work is that not only they were focusing on helping their own country, but also helping the countries near them to fight for freedom. And mainly what Students for Freedom does, now they are actually more involved in humanitarian aid and providing medical supplies and food for people in this kind of dire conditions of conflict. They organize their students all across campuses across Ukraine, in which they organize people to understand what freedom of speech means, how to prevent being tracked, how can you have commerce. And they were like having I remember they had a lot of events on cryptocurrency, and also for just like what are the ideals of freedom. And I think that movement have done a really good job in getting people to understand what these values actually mean. And so when now they are being attacked by the kind of the enemy of freedom, the people know what they're standing for. So they are more like a grassroots a student-led movement in Ukraine, and that's how really kind of the connection. So Ideas Beyond Borders and Students for Freedom are in the same or a kind of network that is about defending freedom around the world. Our focus is mainly in the Middle East, and their focus is mainly in Ukraine.
Wonderful. And I know that Andreas's organization is doing a lot of direct humanitarian aid. So previously, I think they were running a lot of training programs. They were sort of helping people to understand how to do commerce, anti-surveillance. And now they've shifted to pushing like direct humanitarian aid into conflict zones. And it's been a really interesting transition sort of playing out. The training programs are kind of something where you like drop into a country, you set up a environment where people can learn and you teach them. Whereas direct humanitarian aid, you have to find partners who are in the conflict zone. Actually, Andreas is going to head to Ukraine very shortly after this call, but you have to find partners in the conflict zone that can actually distribute resources. I know that that's something you've wrestled with Ideas Beyond Borders as well. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to get money into conflict zones if you're doing humanitarian work?
It's one of the most challenging things in the world. Generally in conflict zone, and whenever there's conflict, is that the infrastructure that is necessary to do like normal forms of transaction, which is wire transfer from a bank X to bank Y, many of these things get suspended, or many of the time people during conflict, they start withdrawing lots of their money from these banks. So the banks generally tend to be very busy during these times, and so it becomes very, and then sometimes they try to stop people from withdrawing money, as it happens, for example, in Lebanon, when there was the Beirut explosion following a lot of economic downturns. The banks actually made regulations on how much somebody can withdraw from the ATM. And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, it was $100 either a month or every couple of weeks. So that is the kind of when the complex things happen, or when there's kind of a great economic downfall, as what happened in Lebanon, most of that basic infrastructure pretty much stops working. Or if it does work, it's amazingly difficult. So that's where there are kind of the old there's a system that called the Hawala network, and Hawala just means transfer, like that's the Arabic word for transfer. And what happens is that it's people who kind of trusted network of individuals tell each other that they are actually sending the money. So you send $1,000 and it goes to person X to person Y, to etc. And then in conflict zones, that's actually one thing very important. That in conflict zones, many of these people start coming out. So as a result, there is a lot of it becomes very challenging to build that trust, because some people leave, some people stay, and it becomes very hard to keep up. So the Hawala system, while it's beneficial as a kind of an alternative to the existing backing networks, I think it's not sufficient, and it's not enough, and for like the current circumstances.
So we actually have Andreas in the waiting room, so we're going to bring Andreas in now. Andreas, welcome. Just a quick update. Can you give us an update on your baby?
It's not born yet, but I still have some time. I just talked to the doctor if I maybe have 5 or 10 minutes for a really important talk, and she was like, "Yeah, go for it." and I'm sitting exactly in front of the room, so I could hear it if something is happening.
Well, Andreas, thank you
I
for
love the
taking the time with
dedication,
us.
Andreas. That's amazing.
Yeah, to be honest, I said it before. I try everything what I can to make it happen, because the topic is so important. And for sure, I'm really looking forward to my baby, but at the same time, I'm thinking on my friends for sure in Ukraine.
Andreas, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your organization, how you got started in it, and the work that you're doing now.
So the organization is standwithukraine.ch, and it's called Peace, Love, Liberty, because this is what we are try to achieve worldwide. We start in Ukraine, but in the future, we're also looking for other projects, for example, in Venezuela or in other places where it's needed. But right now, it's super needed in Ukraine. We're going to supply a lot of medical stuff. We're going to supply cars, everything what is needed. So everything what our people on the ground in Ukraine can't buy, we try to organize in Poland and ship that over the border as soon as possible. And the biggest advantage what we have, we are not like a normal NGO. We don't have this bureaucratic overhead. We don't need so much time. We can, like, for example, with Signal, I mean, somebody's sending us donations, and the donation is like 2 seconds later, it's on the ground in Ukraine, and they can use it to buy everything what is still available. And it's going lower every day.
Can you talk a little bit about what it's like in conflict zones to send money from your perspective? I think one of the things that's so interesting right now about what's happening in Ukraine is that the cell phone networks are staying up. The Russians, for whatever reason, are not disabling the cell phone networks. They're not disabling the internet networks. There's a lot of reasons to theorize about why that might be, but it means that crypto is something you can actually send into the conflict zone. So I'd love you could talk a little bit about what that's like and also what it's like sending money in Signal.
Yeah, so first of all, like 1 or 2 years ago, I was also involved in Belarus and supported the opposition in Belarus. And I recommended to send money via crypto or like alternatives to sending cash via the normal banking system, because in the case of Belarus, it happened that all the money went directly to the bank accounts of Lukashenko, the president of Belarus. And we all think that that's not the way it should go. So I recommended to use crypto, and many people in the huge organization like the transatlantic, all these politicians said, no, this is something for criminals. We can't use it. And I was like, okay, that's really disappointed, because then we don't get the money there.
And so can you talk about what it's like now for you to send money into Ukraine?
So to be honest, it's super comfortable. Everybody likes it. Many people are installing the app in Ukraine. I know that from France, because it takes us it's so much faster. And the only thing what everybody tells me of my friends and our group, the others are too slow. Everything is too slow, and the only thing what they don't have is time.
That's right. That's right. Can you talk a little bit about how you got started in this work?
Me personally, I'm a regular. I'm the CEO of Freedom Today, which is like a counter project of Russia Today. So I'm involved in political stuff and like war zones and stuff like that, or refugee crisis since a long time. I'm banned for traveling to Russia because we did a documentary 5 years ago about Crimea, and it's not allowed to travel from Europe to Crimea. So we fly to St. Petersburg and took a car. So yeah, this is how it all came. And yeah, I'm personal. I mean, I would never leave France alone. Many have this attitude, but I don't know if I already said it, but for sure, I'm loving my baby, my newborn. I will love it, but I will go on Friday or Saturday, latest point, on the ground to Ukraine.
You're going to go on the ground to Ukraine on Friday?
Yeah. Or Saturday. First I'm going to fly to Warsaw, and it depends on how long it will take for me to get over the border.
Can you talk about where you're planning to go in Ukraine? I assume you have contacts on the ground that are already there?
Yeah, no. We have our team is right now in 5 cities. They are in Kharkiv. They are still alive. They are still running operations. They are still running operations. We have people in Lviv. We have people in Odessa. We have people in Kiev, and we also have people in Vinica, which is like the base right now. So
my grandmother's in Odessa and is getting out today, and it's been a whole journey to deal with that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry, because you mentioned it just, I think in the last 3-4 days, we helped like 20, 40, 50 people. I don't even remember how many people we helped to get out.
It is just such a crazy thing. When you get into Ukraine, what's the first thing you're going to do?
The first thing, so first of all, this will be not it shall not be a horror trip. Everything is really planned. We get, for example, from the Ukrainian government, we get a green pass, it's called, that you can go through every checkpoint. Every 20 miles is a checkpoint. Most of them are run by militias or something like that. It's not really sure who they are, but if they see the green pass or European passports, everybody is welcome.
So you can actually just...
Sorry, the first thing what I will do is hug my friends when I see them. That's definitely the first thing. What I would
And
do.
are you driving with like a convoy that has like
Yeah, exactly. We now decided to take like 10 cars instead of 2 or 3 big trucks, because they are too slow, too easy to see, too easy to attack. I mean, it sounds a little bit crazy, but that's how it is.
And what kind of aid are you bringing? Are you bringing water? Are you bringing food? Like what is the actual
For,
things you're
for
bringing?
the most important thing is right now medical stuff. Everything what is needed, medical stuff. The supply of food right now is okay, for the moment. In reality, I mean, we see a lot of things on the TV right now, if it's CNN or European channels, and they say, for example, all the cities in Ukraine are surrounded or encircled or whatever you will call it, but that's not the truth. There's always still a path. You can enter Kiev, you can enter all the cities. I don't even know why television channels are broadcasting that, because I mean, I think that's the wrong thing to say, because it's not the truth.
So you're saying you can actually just drive straight into Kiev right now if you want to?
Yeah, it's still possible. Yeah, there's a corridor. Right? There's an open corridor, and people talk about like opening a corridor. I mean, maybe it can be that it's like a tactic to say, okay, we are encircled or whatever, and we need another corridor. I'm not sure, but right now everything is reachable. I think, yeah. Go ahead.
Are you going to be broadcasting the journey? Like, how are you going to be able to?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is the other thing. I'm gonna take 2 camera guys of my regular company with me, and one will just follow me, and the other will just follow the supply. So we will take a lot of pictures, a lot of stuff, a lot of impressions, and I think we're gonna stay in Ukraine like a week. Now, because I mean, a week is planned, and then we go back for sure. I'm gonna see my baby then, and then we have much more information because we have been there now and stuff like that. By the way, my wife knows me, and she knows me how important that is for me, and I have every support I can ever imagine.
Oh, I think it's wonderful that you have that sort of connection and that you're able to do this kind of work. I'm going to pause for 1 second. We're actually going to be doing an airdrop this week. We encourage everyone to donate, and we'll put instructions for how you can donate on a little bit later today. This is what you can do on your mobile device. If you navigate to mobilecoin.money and click message on Signal, you can then say peace, love, liberty 0302, and this can help get you your first mobile coins. We're going to put Andreas's phone number back on the screen. And later today, we'll have a more automated prompt that will allow you to donate more easily. If you want to donate to Andreas and Students for Liberty in Ukraine, you can actually go on Signal right now and message +49 176 47 340 604. You can then use the MobileCoin payment functionality by hitting the plus button and hitting pay directly in Signal. In 5 seconds or less, Andreas will have funds that he can then instantly distribute anywhere in Ukraine directly to Ukrainian citizens who can help distribute aid. He can also use that money to purchase supplies that he can help bring into Ukraine, including medicine, food, and water. This is the fastest way to get money into a conflict zone for humanitarian aid that's available in the world right now. Once again, you can donate to Andreas and Students for Liberty on Signal by messaging +49 176 47 34 0604. I want to come back to Faisal, and if you can actually talk a little bit about what your experience has been like in conflict zones, and then ask Andreas some questions about what maybe you can contrast like what you're doing with Ideas Beyond Borders with Students for Liberty.
Sure. I mean, my history starts in conflict zones. I was born in Iraq, and I grew up first, and I was born in the first Gulf War in 1991, and then when I became a teenager, then the second Gulf War happened in 2003. Long story short, my neighborhood moved away from the former regime of Saddam, got taken over by Al Qaeda, and that was in West Baghdad, and that was the area in which pretty much most of the militias used to fight. And my crazy self decided to speak against that, and ended up on a couple death lists and being chased out of the country, which eventually happened in 2009. And and the first country I moved to was Lebanon, because that was the kind of neighboring country that allows Iraqis to exist. And when I was in Lebanon, then there was another conflict happening between another militia and a militia. So I had to, and being kind of still like an outsider, I had to leave Lebanon and go to Malaysia, and which kind of was a kind of a more distant. But then so the moment I came back to America, I started to get back to really help the people there on the ground. And then there was kind of the larger conflict happening in Syria, and then all of the conflicts. And since then, I have been on alert, kind of understanding what's happening. And with our work, for example, let's give you kind of more recent examples. When Afghanistan thing happened with the Taliban, we actually started supporting underground schools for girls. So in that way, the girls continue their education. And really, the kind of the process, what is like, is to make sure that these people are real. Go with the vetting parts. Generally, because I'm well connected to the space, is that I contact multiple people to verify if this person is actually say what they say they are, and then have a kind of a conversation which you can understand if this person knows the country they're talking about and the field they're talking about. When it comes to like the Middle East, North Africa, and some extent Afghanistan, I can pretty much name every province in all of these countries, and also the like kind of what is the political scene, who are the dynamics. So I try to kind of apply my own version of verification, see how much they understand, and ask about some form of track record if they can show. They can. One of the amazing things with encrypted messaging with Signal is I ask people to like send me information. It's encrypted. I'm not going to share it with anybody, and just see like if you're running an underground school in Afghanistan or you're doing an education in a conflict zone, send me information encrypted. I get it. Then I delete the message as soon as after I verify it, and then I build that database and make sure that I work with as many people and support them. And on really the positive note, like I'm always in the conflicts really show a lot of the resiliency of some of the people that we're now seeing in Ukraine, and many of and the heroism is just, I mean, if many people ask me, is like, what keeps you going? You're running from a conflict to a conflict, helping people in every conflict. And I think is that inspiration, that kind of constant positive energy of people, even though they are in the midst of conflict, the midst of war, they still want to spread peace. They still want to do something and help their fellow humans. So that's always a constant inspiration, that despite of all of the bad things happening, that kind of a human spirit always thrives and shines. And my role is just to connect with that spirit and try to help it as much as I can.
Andreas, can you talk a little bit about what your authentication of people in Ukraine looks like right now? Like, how do you determine, you obviously have people that you trust in the country right now. When you're onboarding new people to help you, what is that experience like? Oh, we might have just lost Andreas. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm here. I can still hear you, but not so good. Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me? Did you hear
what was the question? Can you repeat the question?
The question is, Faisal was just talking about authenticating people all over the
Middle
East and the trust networks. I'm curious what it's like for you right now, onboarding new people to help you inside of the conflict zone. What's that like for you right now?
It's hard. It's hard and easy the same way. It's hard to describe, because I mean, we get so much support. It's also a lot of work, but it's also, to be honest, sometimes it's dangerous for people, and we tell people better to stay out. Because if somebody is calling me, for sure, it's nice if a 25-year-old lady or young woman is calling me and says, yeah, I want to go to Ukraine. And I said, have you ever been to a war zone, or have you ever seen something like that? Or have you ever even seen blood? Then she's saying no. Then I say, better stay home. Because I mean, we are responsible for our people. I'm telling my people the whole day, just stay alive, stay alive. Don't do stupid things. Don't risk your life for stupid reasons. This is how we handle it. We would never risk the life of somebody.
That's really a deep thought there. Yeah, I just appreciate the work that both of you are doing. And Andreas, thank you so much for doing this work right now. it's an incredible time in history and an incredible time in just, the history of conflict. We've never seen something exactly like this. Every conflict is different, but this one in particular is, it's probably the most publicized conflict in the history of conflict. I kind of think of it as like the TikTok war.
I think for sure it has to do with social media. Everything is getting out so fast. But if you mention the situation, we talk about totally at least 5 million refugees, up to 7 or 8 million refugees. This is like, for example, I don't know how many refugees from Syria it was, but for sure not as much in this short time.
One of the questions I have is thinking about like truth of information in this conflict zone, because a lot of videos that are actually coming out now where we actually don't know whether they're like from a video game or they're actually from Ukraine. And like fingerprinting and like identifying the source of truth on videos is something that none of the platforms are really doing a good job of right now. And so I'm curious, when you are thinking about like seeing, what's happening in the city, what is the way that you get truth there? Obviously, you can see the social media, but also you can talk to people on the ground. What's the best source of information for you?
Can I start?
Yeah, please.
I mean, my first response is don't follow confirmation bias. One of the main things that propagandists try to rely on is that people have their own reality of things, and then they're always looking for information that actually supplies what they're trying to believe. So the main thing, like the first kind of logical / emotional reaction somebody should have in this moment of conflict would be like, is this video that I'm looking at just trying to confirm my already existing belief, or is it am I really curious to know the truth? And the moment you kind of just suspend, like in moment like you start thinking, then you will look more into details than clicking that like or share button and then spread that information around. And it's kind of a practice. Someone, as I said, growing from a conflict to a conflict, I think it builds up over time. But really, the main thing is try to look, is it what I'm seeing? Try to confirm. And also, one of the great things, we talked about social media, we talked about technology, is if you have locals on the ground. And for example, when the conflict in Lebanon was happening, the explosion, and I was seeing all these videos, and I sent it to my friends who are living like 10 kilometers, or I was like, does this look real to you? And then most of the time they are living there, they're like, okay, yeah, this is real. I just saw it on local television, and I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm gonna share that. So I know it kind of takes a bit of time to kind of, and you have to be a bit connected, but I think I would love to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, and really try to make sure that everything that I share and everything that we hold as an organization, also as an individual, is based on evidence.
So I just want to remind people that you can go to mobilecoin.money on your smartphone and send the secret password peace love liberty 0302 to participate in the airdrop. Andreas, did you want to answer the question? And then we have time for one more question after this.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that because I mean I'm working on that since years, like Russian propaganda or propaganda in general. You know, I mean, propaganda wants to make people think that nothing is truth anymore. This is one of the most important things, and this is especially what Russian propaganda is doing, like believe nobody. And this is what you can see in most of the Western countries right now. So this is just in general what propaganda wants you to make, is believe nothing anymore, and nobody, no politician, no trustworthy people, nobody.
So the final question that we have today, Andreas, is what is most needed on the ground in Ukraine? Andreas, this question's for you.
What was the question?
What
was the question? Sorry, I didn't get it.
What is most needed on the ground?
Medical supply, sometimes bulletproof vest. It depends on where you are, to be honest. But I mean, if you're in a war zone, I always would recommend it. Like medical stuff for stop bleedings, like stuff like that. That's the most important thing. Like, because so many people get hit by bombs, and you know, from even from small pieces, you can have a huge blooding.
Andreas, thank you so much for joining us today. Faisal,
Thank you, thank
so
you,
much.
thank you really much, everybody who's here and everybody who's listening to support the fight of liberty. And that's like a fight of a century. It's not just about the liberty of Ukraine, it's about the liberty of the whole world.
That's right. Faisal, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
If you want to donate to Stand With Ukraine, you can go to standwithukraine.ch. Here's the number for Andreas and Students for Liberty. Can we put the number back up? This is donate to Andreas and Students for Liberty on Signal at +49 176 473 40604. Once again, that number is +49 176 473 40604. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And we're wishing for peace to return as quickly as possible to this world. Andreas, good luck with your baby today. Everybody,
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.